Welcome to Love Liaisons, the ultimate deep dive into the highs, lows, and hilarities of modern relationships. I'm Catherine.
And I'm Marina. And we are your love liaisons. So pour yourself a nice glass of wine
Or a hot cup of tea, and let's dive in.
So speaking of tea, I'm curious, what are you drinking right now, Catherine?
I am drinking a ginger turmeric tea. It's very healthy, very good. Not for everyone, but I drink different kinds of teas. But that's what I'm drinking right now. What about you, Marina? What do you have there?
I'm having a beautiful Spanish wine from the Ribera del Duero region, and I think it goes very nice with our topic today. Today, we'll be spilling the tea and talking about, are we dating the same guy phenomena groups on Facebook?
Yes. I'm excited to talk about this for all kinds of different reasons. So let's dive in. So basically, these groups are like real world War of the Roses. You know that radio show where skeptical lovers call in and test their partner's loyalty?
Yeah. And actually, it was kind of funny because I found out that we're both fans of the War of the Roses show. Which yeah. So for people that haven't heard about it, like Catherine said, skeptical lovers call in to have the radio host play a trick on their supposed partner by telling them they've won a dozen romantic red roses from some local flower shop for a promotion, and they ask who they're going to send them to and what love note is attached. So if the unsuspecting partner falls for it and gives the name and a love message for a person other than the caller, their partner, then they're in trouble and all hell breaks loose.
Yes. I always used to listen to that driving to work, and it was like never fail. The majority of the time, I would say 75% of them didn't go the way that they were hoping.
I love listening to it. I would even listen to it with my son, and then we would always look at each other like, do you think they're cheating or not? And really, I thought it was even more, like 8 or 9 out of 10 times. If the caller suspected their partner is cheating or seeing somebody else, they actually are. And the show's been on the radio for years, and it was actually suspected not to be a real reality show, but scripted for entertainment purposes. But the real quest to find out if your partner is cheating actually does exist on Facebook in groups called Are We Dating the Same Guy? And if you're familiar with it, it's in cities across the country. In fact, I'm part of the group that's in San Diego. What about you, Catherine? Have you heard of this group? Have you been part of it?
I recently heard about it a little over a year ago. My sister had mentioned it and said, oh my gosh, you're in the dark ages, girl. I just never knew about it. So I got on it and wow, I was amazed on how much content was in there and just posting pictures of men saying, don't date him. This happened and this, and it really supports women. But there's pros and cons, right? Which we're going to get into.
Yeah, definitely. And, while I've never posted about somebody myself, I've actually recognized some guys who were posted by others. And I've even heard, as we're going to talk about later, some guys get really upset. And when they found that somebody posted about them, and even in other cities, tried to sue women in the group for defamation. But I feel like with this group, instead of a dozen red roses like War of the Roses, this Facebook group offers a dozen red flags. And to me, the way I think that this Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook group, it's kind of like part neighborhood watch for like real violent offenders out there. There are guys that are really creepy out there, and part women's FBI to catch cheaters. Luckily, Catherine and I have never dated the same guy and probably never will. We kind of have different tastes, but I've had situations where I have dated the same guy as somebody else, and I came to find out that person was dating others. And while I never posted on this group, I actually ended up telling the woman herself. So there were 2 situations where I actually did tell the woman. One time I found out that an ex-boyfriend of mine had a new girlfriend, And he actually had another long distance girlfriend. And I actually told her, I found her and I wrote to her and let her know, hey, you just have to know that he's actually living with somebody. He's driving her car. He's all over San Diego with this new woman. And I think you think you're still in a relationship with him. And sometimes people would wonder, should you tell somebody or not? It's rare that I ever do. And this time, this was years ago, I did. You know what? This lady actually, some months later, sent me a thank you letter.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I actually still have the letter. She sent it to me through Facebook Messenger. She wrote, Marina, I hope all is well with you. I had some reflection over this year, and I would like to thank you for contacting me and saving me from wasting my time. Things are going well with me and my son. I had to take a moment to show some respect to you and what you did and how miserable I would have been if I stayed. There are many people that would not do this, so I'd like to at least say thank you the right way. I was actually shocked that she took it the right way.
You know, we're both Libras, but I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think definitely you need to tell, but at the same time, we don't know what's going on in someone's life. We don't know if someone has an open relationship. We don't know if they're just private and don't want to even share it with their closest friends. So it's a catch-22, like Pandora's box. There's pros and cons with things like, are we dating the same guy, social media groups, or do I tell this person, or should I just back off? If it's something where the person is really being harmed, absolutely 100%, maybe even authorities get involved. If she's a person that just can't seem to help herself, yes, we need to stick together. This brings back so many things, you know, Me Too movement. There's pros and cons. It also could be very damaging to a relationship, embarrassing. So it's one of those things where you have to ask yourself, what are the pros and cons, and how much do I want to be involved with the so-called drama, if that's the word you want to use, right?
Yeah. And so that's something to really consider. Do you want to get involved in this drama, and what is in it for you? I gave one example. There's been other times where I've found things. This is something that you find a lot on the Facebook group. A woman will post like, oh my gosh, I found a lipstick. I found a necklace, a charm. I found somebody's underwear. I found something that doesn't belong to me that's in this guy's car. And she takes a picture of it. Like, whose underwear does this belong to?
And that I don't get. If you are posting on social media, should I still date this guy? I want to be respectful here because maybe some people just don't know. Some people are gullible. I used to be that person. Maybe I still am. But I mean, if you see lipstick and it's like a Lancome lipstick, not a Hello Kitty lipstick that might belong to his daughter, it's legitimate of a woman, you shouldn't even have to post. Do not pass go. Do not date him, block him, delete. Like if you have to post, should I date this guy? What are your thoughts? You need to start looking in the mirror a little bit more and maybe working on yourself a little bit more, just like we all have. We've all been in these situations one way or another, but I think it goes back to looking in the mirror and saying, wait a minute, I already have all the answers. Maybe I'm just posting this because I just want to get people to say to me, yes, don't date him anymore. So that way you don't second guess yourself, but you have all the answers. All the red flags are there.
Well, and for some women, I feel like they really feel like they're not getting the answers from the men because clearly they'll say, I asked him, or maybe I'm afraid to ask him. Yeah, they want to get answers from the community of women. And they're not at a place where they could really look deeply and say, hey, I see what I see. It's like they want some more confirmation about this.
And usually, rule of thumb, women that are like this, and like I said, I've been down this road and it's taken me many years, many failed relationships, many listening to my friends and what they go through on dating. So a lot of education throughout the years to get to where I am. This isn't something that happens overnight. You have to gain the skills. You need the communicative, the whatever. I wish there was a course that could teach you how to date. What are the red flags to look for?
Right.
But the bottom line is it always goes back to the buck stops here.
Right.
You know, you need constant confirmation. Like if it happens one time, fine. If it happens a second time, a third time, guess what? If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. It's just, that's the way it is. People aren't going to change unless they look in the mirror and say, hey, I need to make a change for myself.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? It's sometimes people just want to know more.
I
And
want the affirmation.
yeah. I mean, I have to say, the situations that I've been in, I've managed to find out like who the other person is and talk to them directly, woman to woman. Like I had another situation where I found out that this guy that I was dating years ago, it was kind of while we were breaking up, that he actually had a whole other girlfriend during part of the time that we were dating. I found out because this lady popped up on his mom's Facebook page. It was really easy to find her. I just contacted her. I have to say, my goal was to I was mad at this guy. I wanted to hurt him, but he didn't have a whole lot of feelings as some guys. He was not like a really touchy-feely kind of guy. So, you know what? I'm going to go for the weaker person here. And I'm sure it would really upset him if I told this lady. Plus, he ended up still trying to come to my house and get back together. And at that point, I'd had enough. So I contacted her. And I have to say that it upset her so much that she started calling me for emotional support. I mean, I thought I was going to have to charge her for counseling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's good. You want to be a good person. And it is a catch-22. The whole, do I say something? Do I not? And that really comes down to you got to do what's comfortable with you and stick with it. Don't second guess yourself. You do what's right for you and move on. So that way you don't feel like, oh my gosh, maybe I should have said something or maybe I shouldn't have said something. Whatever you do, own it and move on.
And sometimes people can actually have a sense of humor about these things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, believe it or not, like, so those two situations, like, yeah, they didn't really have a sense of humor about it because it was really serious, even though one woman was grateful I told her. But recently I found a woman that I'm an acquaintance with. I know her from dancing. And I found out that we dated 3 of the same guys, but not at the same time. So it's like we had similar tastes, but one after the other. And we actually just found out by accident when she told me, oh, I have a new boyfriend, blah, blah. And I asked her who. She said, oh, you wouldn't know him. And she said who he was. And I said, oh, really? I know everything about this guy. And we actually came to find that it was really funny. But it was really funny to us because both of us have Slavic backgrounds, have like Russian, Ukrainian, Slavic backgrounds. And so we were just saying, wow, these guys must really like Slavic girls, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a big joke. Like, I mean, I always made it a joke when I would go to certain events and look around the room and a guy friend would come up to me and he says, you see all these women? I've already been with them all. And I'm like, that's well, you shouldn't say it. But the point is you had to laugh because the likelihood of in your circle of dating the same guy and or whether it's an app or a religious affiliation or what have you is going to be pretty high. Unless you go to a different city or something like that. I mean, there's only so many eligible, and I'll use that loosely, eligible single men, right? And so I think you had sent this to me actually, and it's hilarious. I think a lot of people out there know Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's this whole thing where Elaine asked Seinfeld about dating. And she says, what are you trying to say about dating? And he says, well, 95% of the population are undateable, Seinfeld says. And he says, yes. And she says, well, so how are people getting together? And he says, alcohol.
Well, there you go. That's where mine comes in.
But it's so true. It's unfortunate, but the likelihood of your friend possibly at some point in time dating someone that you've already dated. And so I always said, pick carefully.
Yeah.
So if in your backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a friend, actually a very good friend of mine, because I see both sides to this, right?
You always do. That's
yes, you always want to protect
that Libra part of you. You always want to balance it out.
Absolutely. That's why I started this discussion group years ago, is because I wanted to be able to discuss all sides, whether we were talking about abortion or the Middle East or whatever, is because I really do think there's two sides of almost every story. Some absolutely not. But I have a very dear friend who I grew up with. Her mom was very good friends with my mom, and she was engaged to be married, and I was going through a divorce. So I didn't get a chance really to spend time with her fiance. And I finally got to meet him, and I asked him, why did you select her? And he told me all the wonderful things about her that I already knew. But he mentioned something which I found very interesting. He said he went out to a very lovely high-end dinner with this young lady from a dating site, an online dating site. And he had said that she selected the restaurant. And when they get there, long story short, she starts saying, oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking me here. My boyfriend would never take me here.
Oh, my God.
I looked at him like, what? And he said, yes. And he says, I'm looking for a partner, like a life partner. Like, what do you mean you have a boyfriend? And she said, well, it's all how you look at it. She says, I'm getting to get to this nice restaurant and you're getting to go out with a lovely young lady, have the pleasure of my company. And so, I hear these stories all the time. So it goes both ways. Men be gentlemen, women be ladies. Treat people with respect, right?
Yeah, and it just sounds like they were not on the same page. Like she was acting like an escort. And yeah, there's services for that. But he was looking for a monogamous partner.
Absolutely. There's so many stories that we could tell. I think you and I just saw one about this couple that was married, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's been all over the Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook page.
Absolutely. I read part of it. I think you did too. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I get the story not accurate, but I believe where somebody had posted and she posted it anonymous. Okay. So for those of you who are familiar with Are We Dating the Same Guy? Basically, women post pictures of men or something about a man that seems creepy or just not okay, not kosher, whatever word you want to use. And
some kind of red flag.
Right, the red flags. And so you can post your name or you can be anonymous. So in this particular situation, the young lady was anonymous and she posts this picture of a man and woman say, hey, do not date this guy. He's married. He's on his honeymoon, something along those lines. And then the wife or partner responds by saying, hey, it's defamation of character, blah, blah, blah. We're in a loving relationship. And the responses were so many responses about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, it's the comments are where the tea's really at. If you're not there just for the information, then you're really there for the tea in the comments. It's unclear what was really going on. Like, why was the wife defending her husband who was being accused by some anonymous member of actually having been in a relationship with her? What was the motivation? Did they have a business together? Is she trying to protect his character? We don't know, but a lot of people had a lot to say. And one of the main themes was, why don't these women just talk to each other, woman to woman, now that they know who they are? Like I talked about my experiences, I knew who the other woman was. And so I contacted her in those few cases. A lot of times people post where they have no idea, like whose lipstick is this? Whose underwear is this? Whose pocketbook is this?
It's so
somebody in Facebook land, please enlighten me. But now that you know, that's what everybody was saying. Just talk to each other, woman to woman, and sort it out.
Well, so this is the thing. There's two sides to this. Maybe he is cheating and she wants to let this person know, and the wife is in denial. She doesn't want to deal with it. Okay. Or maybe they have an open relationship and they want it to be private. There's so many scenarios. Maybe he isn't cheating and this is just a woman that wants to be with him. And so she wants to do whatever she can to get rid of the wife, so to speak, so she can be. And so then she's the psycho. So there's so many scenarios. And it's just, I feel like, how did we get here, Marina? Wow. How did we get here from back in the day? I'll give you a story about my dad, God rest his soul. Love him. He's no longer with us. But when I got a divorce and I was ready to date, I was only with two men my entire life when I had gotten a divorce, and I had never dated in my entire life. And here I am, never had dated. I called up my dad because who else am I supposed to call, right? I love my dad. I respect him. I said, Dad, I'm about to go in the dating world. What advice do you have for me? And you're going to laugh when you hear this. Oh, you're going to laugh, okay? And I might be aging myself here. But my dad says to me, oh, honey, it's really simple. So when you two decide that you want to go out on a date, he comes to your home, he brings you flowers, you go out to dinner, then he drops you off. And if you decide that you both like each other, you schedule another date. I said, thanks, Dad. That's really helpful. So I'm sure you're like laughing right now. So I called my dad the next week. I said, Dad, have you heard of online dating? And he goes, what? And I said, yeah, what you told me, that doesn't happen anymore. First of all, you don't know if the guy is psycho. You can't give him your address. Nobody's coming to my door with flowers. Sometimes the guys will even say, okay, your part of the meal is, which if a guy does that with me, he's definitely not getting a second date. No, I'm not going to go down that road. But I was shocked. And my poor dad, I think like his heart skipped a beat. How did we go from that, where men were respectful, women were ladies, to now the mess that we're in? And I hate to even use mess, but for lack of a better word, how do we get from worrying about our safety and worrying about, is this guy cheating on me, to such a high level? Not to say that back in the 50s or whatever, people weren't cheating, because they certainly were. But how did it get to this level, and why? And how do we have the pendulum go back, right?
I don't know. I mean, it sounds like what your dad was describing is from an episode of Happy Days or something like that. Or it makes sense if you're still a teenager living in his house where, the young man's going to come, knock on the door, and dad's behind you with a baseball bat if something goes wrong. But now, as adult women living on our own and navigating the whole online dating sphere, which we'll talk about in another episode, there's really very little to no vetting. Nobody's really coming recommended unless you have somebody introduce you through somebody else, or you use a matchmaker or something. I mean, a lot of the sites that people are on, the reason that they're so popular is they offer return customers. What I heard recently is that the famous dating site eHarmony is going out of business, or it's going bankrupt. Yeah.
Wow.
Sites like Tinder are so popular. You know why? eHarmony gets you married, and that's it. No return customer, we hope. But Tinder gets you laid. Tinder gets you laid with a variety of people, and then you have return customers. But eHarmony gets you married. So that's what's going on. The most popular dating sites, there's little vetting on there. Anybody can post anything about themselves. You gave an example of somebody who used an old picture. I knew somebody who used a picture of not even themselves. It was like a stock image of a person of a totally different ethnic background than themselves. Even like possible to be the same person. I mean, at least posting an old picture of yourself like you were once that person, at least you're close.
It's scary. When we go back to character, personality, morals, values, one of the things about me is I love music, I love movies, and it makes me think this whole "are you dating the same guy" phenomenon. It reminds me of a movie. It was called Dirty Dancing. Do you remember that movie?
Oh, yeah, I love that movie.
Okay, so I love that movie. I used to work back in the day in a video store, and I watched that movie so many times. It's with Patrick Swayze. But lots of good songs in that movie, but one that comes to mind is the whole song, "You Don't Own Me." I believe it was Leslie Gore who sings it. It was like, "You don't own me. I'm not one of your many toys." So don't tell me what to say, and don't tell me what to do. Okay, I won't sing anymore. I won't. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, don't sing." I was thinking maybe this could be a second career. What do you think, Marina? Like, can I sing? No. Yes.
I mean, yeah, you do have a nice voice. You got a compliment from our last episode of having such a great radio announcer voice.
That's amazing. Yes, but that reminds me of, I think a lot of men, and we're not here to bash men or bash anyone or anything like that. This is just gaining vigilance, gaining insight, all of that. There's two sides to every story sometimes, but I think a lot of this has to do with, it's reflective today with groups like Are We Dating the Same Guy? Some men want to be in control. They think they can get away with it, right? Hopefully what this will also do, not only to help women, but maybe give men start thinking, okay, how did I get this way? Why am I dating 5 women at one time? Why am I lying to all these women? And maybe it might make them more accountable and say, you know what, I need to make a change. This isn't right. Is this the person that I want to be? Hypothetically, I'm just putting it out there. I'm sugarcoating some cat love out there, right? You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting how like that song is what came up for you from Dirty Dancing, because the thing that stands out for me most from that movie was the quote, "Nobody puts baby in a corner." And I think that's actually relevant to what we're talking about. For women, you know, women are baby, and we don't want to be put in a corner. We want to know what's going on in our relationships. And I think that's why these Facebook groups are so popular with women, because we want to know. We don't want to be lied to. We don't want to be cheated on. We don't want to be put in a corner in our own relationships. But you've been a really strong proponent of both sides, and even defending men's relationships, you know, and the men's perspective. I tried to ask a couple of guys to come on our show to interview. I actually asked 3 people. I got 1 straight out no, and then 2, let me sleep on it or let me think about it. Well, they never woke up, you know, to
They're
tell
still
me
sleeping, snoring away.
They're still sleeping on it. So here we are.
And it comes back to, we all need to be held accountable. We all need to look in the mirror, ask ourselves, who do we want to be? What do we want to be remembered for? And it's being good to one another. We need to get back to being good to one another and ourselves. Remember what you said in our introduction episode 1, about loving ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And like kind of going back for a minute to the men's perspective, there was an article that was written in Medium, like magazine and online, by a couple of guys, journalists, talking about how this Facebook group has ruined men's reputations. And even, like I mentioned, some people had sued for defamation of character. So I'm curious, like, we had looked at this Medium article. What do you think about it? Because I personally think they ruined their own relationship. And this is definitely generalizing from the extreme of saying some dissatisfied woman was calling out a man and now he's afraid that everybody knows and he's going to be undateable. I think they're being called out because they're not being open, they're not being honest, or they're being rude and abusive. They are showing these red flags, and people are finally calling them out on it. And they don't like having their supply of women limited. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. I agree with what you're saying. However, some of these women could be lying. And that's where the problem comes into play. Just like the other side. Are we dating the same guy? Well, there's a Facebook group for men. Are we dating the same woman? I don't know if that's what it's called. We certainly can look into that. Or any listeners out there, maybe you could message us, let us know. But there's one for men as well. This goes back to what I'm saying. We need to be good to one another. I think the main reason why this got started was to help women, to support them, so we can stand by women and make sure they're not dating a guy that potentially will be harmful. And when I say harmful, I'm not necessarily talking about like he's going to murder her. I mean, hopefully not. But he might be cheating on her. He might be married. And at the end of the day, you know, if this is what you're doing and you're a man, stop. Just stop it. It's not okay. And if you are one of those people that just can't stop, there is help out there. Because, you know, would you want someone to do that to you?
Yeah.
But there are some women out there that are doing this for revenge or for all kinds of, or business related reasons, or maybe they want the guy for themselves. And that's a whole different topic altogether. These men writing these articles, you mentioned about defamation of character and suing, and this is ruining men's lives. Well, hold on here, guy, whoever you are that's writing this, or men that feel this way. If you are that person that is cheating, you're ruining your own life. So don't blame it on other people. Look in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Like I said, we weren't able to get any guys as guests on the show, but we'd love to hear from all of you listeners out there. So follow us on Facebook, Love Liaisons, and send us a message. Tell us what you think. Have you heard of Are You Dating the Same Guy? What do you think of the whole phenomena, pros and cons, and anything you'd like to share with us? Because this whole phenomena of exposing cheaters and sharing information brings up a bigger question that we'll address next time. Is monogamy a myth?
That is a juicy topic. As an antidote to cheating, ethical non-monogamy?
Yeah. So next time we'll dive into that. We'll be exploring ethical non-monogamy and is it a possible antidote to cheating?
Okay. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to hear about that. I don't know much about that. So this is going to be interesting. And hopefully if there's anyone out there that would like to be on that episode that has some insight on it, we would love to have guests. So I think we're going to stop here. I'm going to take a sip of my ginger turmeric tea.
And I'm going to have another little sip of my wonderful wine.
Sounds good. So keep sipping.
Keep loving.
Keep laughing.
Cheers for now.
From your love liaisons.